let's look at rounding off then. Here we have some numbers in meters, and I want you to round it off. We can't write that it is 6,499 meters to get to the, I don't know, Stongby. Okay? We're not going to put that on our sign, are we? We're going to tell you how many kilometers it is. So if I was measuring exactly that it was 6,499 meters, I want to be able to convert it to the closest number of kilometers. So we got to round all of these numbers off to the nearest kilometer. And what we have to think of here, here's 6 kilometers and here's 7 kilometers. What number is exactly in the middle here between 6 and 7 kilometers? The number that's exactly in the middle here would be 6.5 kilometers. Yes? That one's exactly in the middle. It's not slightly to this side and it's not slightly to that side. It's slap bang in the center. So, what's the rule then? Well, let's look at 6,499. Where's it going to come? It's going to come only very, 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 very slightly to the left of that middle point. Very, very slightly to the left of this middle point. So this one would end up at being 6.499 kilometers. The question is it closer to 6 kilometers or 7 kilometers? It's to the left of this line, so it's closer to 6 kilometers. So if we were rounding this off to the nearest kilometer, we would say that that number is 6 kilometers. This one then, well, this one's easy because it's slightly to the right of the middle point, so it's closest to 7 kilometers. So this one here would be rounded off to the nearest kilometer at being 7 kilometers, even though there's only 2 meters in between them. This one is closest to 6 kilometers, this one is closest to 7 kilometers. What do we do with the one that is slap bang in the middle then? Well, we decide that the one in the middle always goes up. Okay? So even though it is exactly in the middle, if it is in the middle, so that every maths person does the same thing, half of you don't say it's 6 kilometers and half of you don't say it's 7. If it's exactly in the middle, the practice in maths is that we say that it is going up to the highest one, so it's 7 kilometers. Okay? So that's when we're doing without decimals. What do we do when we have to then approximate 6.499 millimeters to 1 decimal place? Well, we look at where we're going to chop. We want at 1 decimal place, so we're only allowed 1 decimal in our answer. So I'm going to have to chop everything that's after that. So do I keep this as a 4 or do I move it up to a 5? To decide whether this number either stays the same or gets 1 larger, I look at the number afterwards. If the number afterwards is 5, 6, 7, 8 or 9, this one goes up 1. If the number here is 0, 1, 2, 3 or 4, we don't do anything with that number. So when we look at the number after the 4, we see it's a 9, and that means that we have to move up 1, giving us our approximate to 6.5. We have to add 1 to that number because here was a number 9. Why? It's almost exactly the same as here. If we think of this being 6 millimeters and this being 7 millimeters, and 7 millimeters. And this is 6.5 millimeters. And we're wondering, where is the number 6.499? It's here. Is it closer to the number 6.4 or closer to the number 6.5? It's much, much closer to 6.5 than it is to 6.4. So if you're doing this to 1 decimal place, your answer would be 6.5 millimeters to 1 decimal place. 6.5 to 1 decimal place, it's already at 1 decimal place. So there's nothing to round off there. 6.501 to 1 decimal place. We're going to chop here. Look at the number just after the 5 to decide whether the 5 stays the same or goes up 1. The number after the 5 is a 0, so nothing happens with that number. We don't move up 1. So we're always just trying to make, so this one would be 6.5 to 1 millimeters to 1 decimal. What about if we'd done it to 2 decimal places then? If we'd asked you to approximate 6.499 to 2 decimals, if we were going to do it 2 decimals, we'd be chopping here and we'd be chopping there. So we don't want any number after that 9, but we need to look at the number just after the 9 to decide what we do, whether we move that number up 1 or not. So if we look at the number after the 9, we've got a 9 here, which means we're going to have to add 1 to this number. If we add 1 to that number, what do we get? We get the number 6.50 millimeters. And we have to put in the 0 because it's told us to answer to 2 decimal places, and that means we must have 2 decimal places in the answer. So you have to put in the 0 in this case. Usually we don't bother with them once they turn into zeros. 6.5 millimeters, same thing here. We have to put in the 0. It means there's nothing afterwards, so it's not going to go up. But it is 6.50 to 2 millimeters to 2 decimal places. And this one, 6.501, we chop after the 0. Look here, oh, we've only got a 1. It's less than 5. So this is going to be 6.50 millimeters to 2 decimals. So rounding off and rounding up skills is really just, what's the middle number? Is it to the left of the middle number? We go down. If it's to the right of the middle number, we go up. So that's all we have to do when it comes to rounding off